Hello, Craig from Wolken mit Zellen. That's we will talk about the name. I mean, you already told me a little bit, so I know, but yeah, I want to lay it out for our audience later on. But please introduce yourself. Tell me what you're doing and what kind of music you make, maybe how you got into music, and just tell us a little bit about yourself you want us to know.
Sure. My name is Greg Dixon, and I live in Texas in the United States, and I have a project, solo project called Wolken mit Zellen, and it's primarily electronic. I've had over the past 25 years a pretty broad exposure to music production and different bands that I've played in, and so it becomes an expression of who I am as a musician, where I've come from. I started around the early 90s and have seen the evolution of the technology and the business, the changes in the music business. And so primarily right now, my project focuses mostly around mental health and trying to spread awareness concerning some of those issues.
Okay. Before we get into that, I just would like to know, because I'm interested in that. How did you get into music? I mean, what was your kind of musical upbringing? Because I mean, I know where you are now, but how do you get from where you are now to where? I mean, did you start with a flute as a child or something? How was your way to where you are now?
Sure. I was classically trained, beginning with the piano. Took piano lessons for several years. I came from a family of musicians. Both my parents sang in a choir. My mom was a choir director. And when I was about 14, I got into guitar, classical guitar with nylon strings, and then wanted to learn electrical guitar. And the way that I got into electronic music was, I think, the frustration of meeting together with other musicians who played guitar or played drums, or I could see how laborious it is to be working in a band. And I went down to the local music store and entered the keyboard department, and Erasure had just released The Innocence, and Depeche Mode had just released Violator.
Oh, okay.
And both of those records piqued my interest, and of course my interest in Vince Clarke and where he had come from, and kind of the beginning of synth pop and the new romantic period. So I slowly transitioned what I knew over to the technology, and started on a pretty crude sequencer. And back then the synthesizers were PCM. They were just recordings. If it was a piano, it was a recording of a piano, and strings were a recording of strings, and there was very little editing. But from that period forward, have just evolved with the technologies. And first it was virtual synthesis. I believe Nord put out the Nord lead, and Roland was into the groove boxes. And then around that point, I started actually playing in a traditional rock and roll band for a little over 5 years.
As a synth player or as a guitar player?
Keyboard player.
Keyboard player.
Yeah, played organ and piano, synthesizer type sounds. I was playing with some musicians that had been signed and had the experience of recording a record with a proper producer and having it mixed and mastered. And so I learned a lot about just the proper format of pop songs in that experience. And then I kind of just quit music for a period of about 5 or 6 years, until about 5 years ago, I decided to reintroduce myself to the technology. And of course, Eurorack had come out, the modular format. I
see something in the background. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, and so I was really interested in that because I understood the basics of synthesis, but primarily subtractive synthesis. But building the modules that I have, I built myself with either through kits or sourcing the materials myself, maybe getting a partial kit. But that taught me a lot about when you see modular and how you see the flow from oscillator to filter to amplifier to output. It's really opens your eyes to.
Yeah, it lets you marvel a little bit more of a technology and the things people thought of and stuff. And I mean, you know, somebody had to kind of see, oh, there's a circuit going there, and this does that. You know, I'm fascinated with this too. I'm not very technical, I have to admit, but I love it. You know, I accidentally kind of try to make sounds that are unusual, and I guess you did the same. You know, just what happened if I plug this in there and then do something what it's not supposed to do, and then you know, hit something new. Might sound awful, but it's fun.
Yeah, so I really got into that for a while, and continue to do so. I'm working on a filter right now, but at the same time, I started writing music again, writing lyrics, recording, and just kind of seeing where it would come. Where in the past, I originally started in synth pop, and then that went to kind of the late 90s. I was really into the Crystal Method. They put out a record called Vegas, which that was in 97. And that just blew my mind because it was recorded through old compressors, FET technology, tube technology, and it just had this really warm, quiet yet very powerful backbeat. And then went into trance for a number of years, and joined up with some partners, and we recorded trance. Had that played in the clubs quite a bit, or locally, where I was living at the time. And so with what I'm doing now, in the past, I thought the process has always been where do I want to get to? And right now, I don't have that thought. I just see what happens, see what comes out.
You just enjoy where you are right now and tinker around and play around with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's fine too. You know, I guess, you know, in a way, it's a luxury you have, you know. You don't have a certain goal, you know, I want to reach the charts or I want to put an album every year or something. because I mean, this gives you the freedom to just do whatever you want to do, and like we said, play around and see what happens with it. So I'm completely with you here. It's sometimes it's good to put a little bit pressure on yourself so that you get things finished sometimes, because otherwise it's just diddling around. But as you do it, I take it as a hobby. It's not your main thing. So why not have the most fun with it? So you have fans, obviously, but I guess we're not storming your door and saying, okay, we need this new record out soon, otherwise whatever.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that you mentioned challenging, and just recently, maybe within the last 3 weeks, I have been eliciting opinions from some of the newer musicians that are coming out with more modern, up-to-date production techniques, EDM. What do they think? How do they think it is balanced sonically? And some have been brutally honest, which I appreciate, and some have been just like, I love it, and then some people don't like it at all. But it's been really eye-opening. I actually went back and started a couple courses that were just online courses with mixing and mastering, just to kind of get back to the basics, because things have changed so much. And I admire this new generation that's putting out music on their laptops, and it sounds extraordinary. So it's been a challenge to how do they get that sound, and what's their signal path, and so there's definitely been not only changes to the business and the industry, but the how they go about it. And I think back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was very little bass that was mixed into dance tracks.
But what I'm thinking, I mean, do you feel obliged to change your kind of approach or your music just because things have changed? I mean, I'm thinking like, I mean, we are both a little bit older, I can guess. So why? Okay, maybe I think I'm thinking this wrong. I mean, in a way, it's good to update your things and to learn new stuff. That's always good to stay current and to know what's going on and to learn new techniques. It kind of keeps you young and healthy as well. I mean, you train your brain. That's perfect. But on the other hand, I think like you also don't have to run after every new trend, and just because this is in now or this is something, what I mean basically is do the things you like. You said you solicited opinions from others, and some were nice, some were bad, some were whatever, and my point is, if you're happy with your music, stick with it, so you will never, I mean, if you tailor things right, you might reach a big audience, but I guess this is not your thing. I mean, you should be happy with what you're doing, and as long as you're happy, that's fine. But of course, I know with a solo project, it's always a little bit tougher because kind of you're in your own little bubble, and so after a while, of course you are not objective anymore. So you need outside views or whatever, but still in the end, my point is just if you're happy with how you make music and how you sound and how, who is to say this is wrong? Music is a big thing and there is no right or wrong. There's just what you like and what you don't like. And, you know, anyway, so my question, my concrete question is, do you feel obliged to kind of change things, like you just said, that you have to put in more bass or something? I mean, do you feel like pressured into it, or do you really want to do it? Do you want to try out new things? I mean, that's fine as well, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a natural evolution in the technology. I think the songs themselves, even down to the type of electronic kit, drum kit, or synth bass, or you know, we have access to tools that I would have never dreamed of 20 years ago, and so I think musically, with the tone, the texture, that's going to stay the same, but I think it's more of the engineering side that I look at it as just keeping my palette sharp as far as mixing. Like, for example, when Daft Punk came out with Around the World back in the 90s.
Oh man, this was so long ago already.
Yeah, and you heard that there was that compression. And back then that was considered a mistake. You know, like you've over compressed, it's pumping. And One More Time was another song that they started to establish this sound of sidechain compressor pumping. And now people use that almost regularly, at the least. I personally am not aiming for that, but I do want to. I do look at listen to some of the new stuff and think I do want to get my low end tighter. I want it to be a little bit tighter, a little bit more together with the kick. And how do they do that? And what are they doing these days? Plus the, you know, mastering has completely changed. Distribution has completely changed. People are not going to the store and buying CDs. They're not even buying MP3s and downloading them so much anymore. It's buy a subscription to a music service, and that's what they're listening to. And so how you master that and the changeover to loofs, I think, is what they're...
Loofs? What's loofs?
Loofs. I forget what it stands for.
So tell me what it is.
So it's the volume of a song overall. So when they master, it used to be dB. You know, you'd try to hit 0. Just hit it, the meter would just hit 0 and stay at 0 and would never come down. It was just limited and maximized and compressed fully, and was very loud for a very loud mix. And now with the online services, you need to hit a -1 dB. And
yeah, I heard of this. Yeah, and there was this the loudness wars. I read somewhere, you know, that they wanted to get always louder and louder and louder. And now, yeah, okay, with distributors, they, you know, I realized with this YouTube, for example, when you upload something there, it kind of, you know, the sound is already a little bit, they compress it also
right.
when you upload something there. Okay, yeah, loofs. You know, I'm not pretending that I know much, but yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah,
it's loud, like loudness units.
Yeah. Okay, so as I take it in your answer, you just want to keep up to date and use whatever new ways you can find to kind of better your music, and that's absolutely, I mean, like everyone should do, you know. Before we maybe go into some other topics, I know at the moment, of course, you know, I take Texas is also kind of in shutdown or something, right? Or how is the situation in Texas at the moment?
Well, 6 or 7 months ago, they did shut down most of the non-essential businesses. Many people were sent home to work. A lot of people were laid off. Right now, there's never been a mandatory, not for people, for businesses there has been, but for people it's been more of recommendations, strongly encouraged.
Okay. Because my question for you now was, so do you plan or do you have planned to do some live music? Because now you are, a one-man band basically, and this has certain challenges. And if you use analog stuff, you need a big car, I guess, to get to somewhere and set it all up or something. Do you have any plans for that? I mean, taking Corona out of the picture, do you consider this, or are you just like a recording artist? How do you see yourself in this?
I think about it. I will be honest with you, though. As I said before, I had quit music for a little bit, and that 5 years, a lot of things changed, and DJing became a profession where you would tour. Where I was kind of the school I'm from, the DJ had a home location. They were the
club
house
DJ. Exactly, he would be in one club, and every Friday, DJ would play and spin the beats. I know what you mean.
They carried around their crates of records, and you get to know which DJ has which records, and now I kind of awoke to a world of traveling DJs, and not only that, but they're putting on concerts, and so that's very new for me to see that.
So you see yourself more as a DJ, or?
No, the opposite, more of a producer, artist. But I know that there's a fine line. So a lot of even people from more traditional bands go out and DJ, and presidents of a label might go out and DJ. Then you have the producer DJs that put out records, and they actually go and headline a festival, and they play their stuff, they play their other people's stuff, they do some remixes. So it's really changed a lot.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds maybe funny, but I also have a problem because I'm a DJ as well, but I don't see myself as a DJ. I have this radio show where I also will play your song, and one of your songs. You have more than one, but I would never see myself as a DJ. A DJ, for me, like you described, is somebody who remixes songs and really gets tight stuff together. And I'm kind of more like a music presenter. I kind of say, oh, no, the next song is from this and that, but I'm considered a DJ, and I'm always flabbergasted when somebody says, "Oh, you're a DJ." And because I don't know if you think, a DJ is like you just described, somebody in the club who kind of has a certain. I'm just a presenter. I'm like a moderator. I'm showing music I like, what I found basically. But yeah, I'm still considered a DJ, and I don't see myself as that because, as you said, they are now something else. They are like an artist in a different way. You know, we are not just they're making their own music, but we also knew other, present other music. And so, sorry, this was just because as you were talking, I was like, yeah, somebody told me a DJ as well, because for some reason we have where I work in my day job, we have 3 DJs, and I was like, who are the 3 DJs? I know 2, and then I realized, oh, that's me. Because somebody said it to me the other day, and they're right. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. This has nothing to do with you. I'm just the realization that I'm a DJ as well, but I would never call me that. I have a radio show, but I'm a radio DJ. No, whatever. Sorry.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear your perspective.
Because you made me think that, because like you just said, a DJ is something else today, and there I don't see myself fit of what I do, because I collect music, I'm looking for music I like, and then I present it in my show, but I don't remix it, I don't, I say, okay, the next song is from this and that, and they're coming from California, and I really enjoy it, and then I play the song, this is a presentation, but I'm considered a DJ. You see what I mean? And this doesn't fall into the picture you just painted, because I'm not going out there and doing this presentation in a different club, or you see what I mean? I'm kind of, maybe we should this is a radio DJ, and this is a club DJ, and this is a touring DJ. I don't want to It was just as you were talking, I realized, I'm that too, but I'm not that. You see what I mean?
Sure.
I'm something. Yeah, I'm something else.
Well, I'll say the music stores here in the States never had. You had PA, kind of the PA section, but they didn't have. Like now, you can go into an entire room that's filled with DJ equipment. And that is just, within the last 10 years, I would guess. So it's evolved what it means. Yes, there's different hats that people wear that go under the name of a DJ. But I guess to your question, I've thought, I've seen probably the one that has grown the most that I've seen, other than like Daft Punk or the Crystal Method, is Deadmau5, where he was mainly a producer producing music, and then he started putting on these huge shows, and then they got bigger and they got bigger and they got bigger, and then more DJs start making original music, and then the whole scene is completely different from when I can remember Deadmau5 putting out his first recordings. So
okay, so my question was still so you're not considering playing live, or you haven't really answered this question yet. So if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. I don't want to push you, but are you considering it? And when we started off in the DJ thing,
I have thought about it. It's very new to me. That concept of putting on that hat. And I've worked with a lot of DJs, and I think that whole concept of like queuing up a record and matching the beats. And when I first saw that done, that was of course on turntables, and then CD, and now it's MP3 or whatever, and whatever kind of file you're using. I have not shut the door to any kind of festival interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a world that is very different for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm not saying no.
Yeah, but you're not saying yes as well.
I
got it. No.
I'd be a fish out of water. I think.
Yeah, but sometimes this has benefits as well, because you could kind of introduce your take on it. I mean, that's the cool thing with music. Where, like I said before, there is no right or wrong. And if you DJ, it would be completely different than Deadmau5, or it will be your kind of way. And for a little while, I was also playing, because you said it, with a turntable thing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I got one I ordered one online, and I could have it for 30 days. So I played around with it for 30 days, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, fun. But then I realized, okay, and I guess this is where we connect again. You can do so many things, but I would rather focus on a few things doing right than too many things doing a little bit. This was my thing. If I start something new, I'm usually I started as a bass player and sang a little bit, and now I'm more like a singer, and so I try to focus, to hone my skills in a more narrower set. It's good to know a lot of things, what's going on. Like you update your production methods and your synthesizers and things, but you cannot be all over the place. I mean, when you're how you say in English, you say jack of all trades, master of none, or something like this.
Right.
Yeah, no, and this is what I'm not looking for. I know what I can do. I know what works for me. And so I try to hone my skills more in one or in a few directions. This doesn't mean I want to try new things. Like I said in the beginning, this is obviously the right thing to do, to be up to date and to learn things, and to kind of keep your mind occupied as well. So. But then again, just taking a guitar and playing a few tunes, and so it's fun too, and just singing, and so anyway, so you also sang in a choir, like your parents, I guess. I take it. So you got some singing education as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. As you put it in your bio, I want to talk about it as well, because it seems very important to you. You have, tell me about what you mean with bipolar disorder. I mean, of course, I know a little bit about it, but what is your struggle with it, and how you try to help people and to raise awareness? So we should talk about this as well.
Sure, and that's a perfect segue, because I take very powerful medications.
Okay.
Just so that I can live at home and not be in a hospital. I've been hospitalized multiple times, and actually, if I was alive 50 years ago, I'd probably still be in a hospital the rest of my life. But with psychiatry these days, I'm allowed to live it's not a normal life, but it's better than, it's an interesting life. I was diagnosed late. It was about 5 years ago when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I had a background in finance. I was actually starting a career as a stockbroker, and I started to experience for months a psychosis.
Okay.
And where I had a break from reality, and the world outside was not what I was perceiving it to be. And I was incredibly paranoid. And this went on for months, and it's happened more than once. And over the past 3 years, I've been relatively stable. Here's the thing, why I think I went under the radar for so long, is that musicians are kind of quirky. Just
yeah. You know, I mean, it's kind of expected from them to be a little bit different, or outside of a norm, out of a box. Kind of people.
Yeah, we would be having, let's say we're having a party, and then I get bored and I'll just leave and not tell anybody, and then I'd go to the next state that allows casino gambling, and I'm all by myself in the middle of the night playing in a casino, and they're wondering what happened to Greg. And
he just wandered off.
And that wasn't weird. You know, we had members of our band that would be gone for 2 weeks, and they'd be at their house with their blinds closed, and maybe binge watching movies for 2 weeks, or doing. So it wasn't unusual. Nobody would have looked at me and thought he's mentally ill. And it actually inspires a lot of creativity, and has historically, in a lot of well-known, very well-documented artists. The thing that happened to me, though, was I was in the business world, and things were happening in my mind that weren't really happening in life. And those two worlds you can't live in that world and be mentally ill. And basically my entire life spun out of control. Just everything came to a standstill. I quit my job because of severe paranoia. And to be honest with you, this is what I'm able to do. And I've sat back, and the medication that I take impairs me in a lot of ways, but music, it kind of welcomes eccentric behavior, eccentric thinking. And I participate in a lot of group therapy on a regular basis, individual, and I have my doctor, of course, but I run across a lot of people who are very hesitant to seek professional help for depression, anxiety. And I think what happened to me, there was a point where I was laying on the bed in a hospital staring at the ceiling, and that's all I did. And I actually had to have a tube inserted to feed me. And I had a doctor who used some of these medications that have only been around for the last 20 years to get me out of it. And when I was leaving the hospital, she said, and this is about 3 years ago, she says, what are you going to be doing? And I said, well, I've got the synthesizer at home I've been building, and I've been writing, and I'm going to write and produce music. I can do that. And what I find, there's a lot more awareness about, like, you'll hear people say, suicide awareness or mental health, mental illness awareness, depression, anxiety. Those are all good things. But I've encountered a lot of people that have a self-stigma about themselves, envisioning themselves going to a psychiatrist and admitting to themselves that maybe they need to be on a medication, maybe they need medical intervention. Maybe
that's a little bit strange. Sorry for interrupting here, because for us, Germans or Europeans or whatever. Okay, let's talk about just me. Americans are perceived that we are taking a lot of drugs and a lot of getting a lot of therapy sessions. This is kind of it's almost comically, in movies or so. We see, when you see the posh upper New York class and stuff, they all have their psychiatrist, and it's kind of, it's normal for, at least this is my perception, for Americans to so I'm a little bit surprised to telling me that there's still the stigma, because kind of it seemed to me, but maybe this is just produced by the movies and stuff, that it's kind of almost how you say, the good tone, or the normal thing, or that you have to have a psychiatrist, and and you kind of can, oh, but I have two, and I have three, and I'm going to this therapy. You see what I'm talking about? So so that's a little bit odd for me that you tell me now it's still stigmatized and still not so out in the open to search for help, because from my perspective, from the German perspective I have of United States, is that these guys are going to the doctor regularly or to the psychiatrist, and it's very easy for them.
Yeah, I've got to have the puppy that fits in my purse, and then this is my therapist, right?
Yeah, so something, it's like it's the good tone, or like if you have this. But I have a Hollywood movie perception maybe of this, and you are down in the trenches and in the real things, and and there might be some truth to that in the upper classes, they want to kind of, they have no real problems anymore, so we're talking about fake problems, and they need 5 psychiatrists because they didn't get their candy bar as a child or something, and kind of fake problems for people who don't have real problems. But now you're telling me, what I'm hearing from you is that people who really need help don't seek out help, because they feel stigmatized. And I'm taking it might be more the, I don't want to put you down, but more the working class, the not so hip, rich, upper class people.
Yeah, you make a very good point. And I think what you're talking about is, so there's definitely a misunderstanding in culture about really what mental illness is and can do to somebody. For example, you'll meet people who can be really nice, and then they just fly off the handle. They just go into a rage, and they're very angry. And it's easy to say, well, that person's bipolar. Or that person, I've even heard people say, I feel so bipolar. And because yesterday I wore red shoes, and today I'm wearing gray, and every day's different. I'm bipolar, right? And then people who might, be moody one day and then fun to be around the next, they're schizophrenic. Because there's 2 of them, and unfortunately, yes, it's very common to see somebody going to therapy, and maybe that person might be taking a low dose of antidepressants, and that's been within the last 20 years. That has become more accepted. Mm-hmm. But people who are truly bipolar, they experience depressions where there is no hope. Mm-hmm. You are hopeless, and we've seen this in. I mean, I was crushed when Chester Bennington from Linkin Park committed suicide, and Chris Cornell. And ironically, I used to listen to their music, and I would relate so much to it. I would say, if they're okay, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And their suicides were about 2 years after I was diagnosed. And it's interesting to see what kind of treatment they were or were not getting. And I think it's very easy, some of the anti-anxiety medications, can become chic, if what's the word I'm looking for? Like, can become kind of the in thing.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, you have five psychiatrists, and so that's you're kind of, you're so well aware of your, okay, yeah. So it becomes like a trend, trendy thing to have.
Yeah. Bipolar disorder, the other side of it, and this is the bipolar part, is that you can go into manias that, first of all, the depressions go deeper than in the average person having a bad day. Mm-hmm. Like, their brain just is not functioning and they're depressed. And you can't talk them out of it. You can't cheer them up. They don't want to do things that they normally like. They don't want to do anything. Mm-hmm. And then if somebody's bipolar, they may stay that way for a period of time, and then they'll swing the opposite, and they become very charismatic and fun, and they believe that they can accomplish great things, and they do accomplish great things. And but what can happen is that they lose a complete sense of reality. They think that they're a secret agent, and this group of people is after them, and a lot of people end up homeless, and generally before that, and continuing further, drug abuse, self-medication, which is generally the abuse of let's say alcohol is very common for people who are delusional. Just to self-medicate, you don't realize that you're actually medicating a medical problem that you have. That's not the same as being a little quirky or eccentric.
Yes, see, this where I understand. It's maybe we can get to this. Where is the line? Because a little bit quirky, a little bit maniac, a little bit depressed, a little bit sad. Everyone is once in a while, But I don't know if there's a slippery slope that you can get. I mean, get more and more and more. Where is the switching point? That this is just a normal behavior of every. You have a bad day. You fight with your spouse. You were. Your boss told you, oh man, this was not good, and all these things. Maybe you can point it out a little bit, because I'm with you that this is sometimes we don't take it seriously. There's this funny uncle you have, and yeah, he's a little bit weird and he does strange stuff, but you don't really think about it because it was always this way. And you see what I mean? Like you might have experienced, with what you said before. You left the party and then you were gambling somewhere. I mean, you're a grown-up person, so you can do that. And I did it myself. If I don't like a party, and then I just leave. And go home or go somewhere else. What I'm talking about is, this is not unusual behavior, and I don't think I have a mental disorder. But you see, maybe we can, because this might be the most helpful for people out there to kind of see where is the switch from a little bit, eccentric to, okay, this you need to get checked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist, and that's...
Yeah, no, of course, we are both not, for all the people out there and for the listeners, this is no mental health advice, but
Right.
I want to talk about your way in realizing it, because I used to work for a hotline, where suicidal people can call, and I kind of help them to go through their depression things. So I know a little bit about this as well, of course, but so I also know that alcoholism or alcoholics, they need to realize themselves that they have a problem, because for a long time it's like we tell, if you have a problem, they kind of put it out, and it's not them. And you need to kind of get the people focused. Okay, I really have a problem. They have to admit it, and then they can heal, and then they can seek treatment. Because if it's always the circumstances or someone else, then they are never responsible for what's happening. And I feel it might be the same with bipolar disorder, and I want to get into that. So you need to get to the bottom of it. You need to realize, okay, there's really a problem. I have an issue here, and then you can seek help. So maybe as we are no psychiatrists and stuff, but we can talk about you. How did
Sure.
you get there? And from the eccentric musician who does, leave the party and gambles, to, okay, there's something wrong here, and this is not right.
Yeah. Well, that example, that's a very good point. And that example is kind of meant to show that if you're hanging out with a bunch of musicians, no one's going to think that's, an illness. They're just going to
exactly.
say, that's just Greg. He's kind of nuts. And, and a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and
Well,
I'm also an artist. I know a lot of. So this is exactly my point. I want to know where I want to raise my own awareness when it might be too much, because I know a lot of people like this to do a lot of crazy things. I know a lot of actors and musicians and painters and whatever, and they're all a little bit eccentric. This is kind of, it needs to be there, to be creative. So anyway, sorry, no more interruptions. Tell me when I should be aware.
I think you're providing a very good framework. So
Thank you.
I appreciate your questions and reassessing. So what, for example, and I'm an open book. I've been an open book with many people many times. So I was in a period where I literally thought somebody was trying to kill me.
Okay.
And I quit my job because of it. And then I thought the entire city was following me around, and they were that there were listening devices in my house, that
Okay.
my wife was in on it. There was 3 o'clock in the morning. I dismantled this huge clock that was on the wall, looking for a recording device, and
Okay.
I found them. They were actually just little pieces of plastic where the screws would go, but in my mind they were recording devices, and I went and I put them in water so
Mm-hmm.
that the water would muffle that out. Um, and I mean, I was psychotic. That's a psychosis. You are removed from reality. I would go to the store, and people were just always following me, and they wouldn't let me be alone, and or they would be clicking, making a noise that's specifically to annoy me, and it became so inflated that I thought everybody that drove a white car was in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And white is one of the most common colors there is for cars, so
Mm-hmm.
they were everywhere. And eventually the only answer was to be hospitalized, because you become a danger.
But
Most often.
how do you get to this? This is my question to you.
Mhm.
So you described now how you got into psychosis, but when, because in your mind you were right about it. People were following you, people were annoying you, and you were oversensitive. So, but at what point did you got, okay, Craig, here's something wrong with me? This is the point I'm trying to find in you. When was this happening? Was there a special circumstance? Because otherwise you're still right in your little bubble. You would not go to the hospital because you wouldn't think something is wrong with you because all the others are wrong. You understand what I mean?
It was a very specific point,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember it well. And so I actually, my wife and we were seeing a counselor, called the police while I was saying things and thinking things, and it had become obvious that I was a danger to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the police showed up and lovingly escorted me to the hospital. I don't know if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I don't remember that there was a lovingly escort to the hospital in there. I know the plot, but I don't remember
Yeah.
the scene.
Yeah, his wife calls the police, and he's teaching, and they show up, and he runs off thinking that they're Russians and part of the delusion. It wasn't that dramatic, but they sent me to the hospital, and and you're right. Even now I look back at that and I think it feels real. Even though I know it's not, I logically know it's not real, but I got put on medication, and I was compliant with the medication because I was part of the delusion. And I remember I went out for a drive, and this is months, and my mind just kind of gently shifted, and I thought, maybe this is all in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my wife isn't lying to me, my mother-in-law, my brothers-in-law, my sisters-in-law, the neighbors, all these people. Maybe it's in my head.
And this
Maybe
was
that's
with medication or before the medication?
with
With
medication.
medication. Hmm.
Yeah. And I started to come out of it And it's not just overnight. I remember going to a bookstore late at night and thinking, because it had been months, 6 months, 7, 8 months, and seeing people go out at night.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start to all of a sudden get reintroduced to reality that not everybody's following you, and not everybody is interested in you, and not everybody is trying to bother you.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe the psychiatrist is right in saying I have a mental illness. And when you come to the point where you can't function as a human being, whether you have obsessive compulsive disorder, I mean, you can see people in the office and they put their pad of paper here and they put their pencil here and they'll say, "Oh, I'm so OCD."
Mm-hmm.
But when you come across people that can't even leave their house, or they think, like they don't want to drive because maybe that bump they hear, they ran over somebody and they have to go back and check. And, that's the line of somebody exhibiting behaviors that are similar.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. Everybody does have bad days. Everybody is kind of obsessive with something. Everybody does get depressed. Everybody does get elated. But there's a line where that leaves the ability to function in life. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people lose hope, and very successful people, and they choose to end their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And because they didn't receive treatment for whatever reason, it may not have been recognized. Generally, people have to have something very major happen in their life, a major undoing for there to be a diagnosis. I've seen people who telling me about their work or whatever, and they're afraid that if I did that and then that I was responsible for this, and that might kill or injure another person, and that's a little bit too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very same time, they don't think that they're ill and they don't want to go see the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. So yeah, and unfortunately, I hoped that there was like an awakening moment with you. I mean, there was, but it's kind of your wife kind of started it, with a police. How did you say, happily? No, not nicely escorting you, gently escorting you to some therapy or to the hospital. So yeah, so I hoped you could kind of, this is when I realized it. But yeah, so it's so tough to really put a finger on it, because it's a fluid thing. It's like when what is too much. I mean, what you just said is, of course, clearly, if you have a coworker who tells you, I might have killed someone accidentally, with this behavior, then of course, I mean, there I would draw, of course, the line. This is way too much. That's for sure. But it's yeah, it's not easy to really find the. There's no specific marker. There's a few things where you should get up a flag, oh, this is a little bit, let's watch it. But then also you rely on people who are doing that, That's what I meant in the beginning. If you are surrounded by a lot of artists or you more eccentric people, and I am, and I like it, because it kind of keeps you fresh and new perspectives, and I don't have to agree with everything. And but yeah, then there is, you see, it's really, it's not an easy way. So I think it's good that we talk about it so we can raise awareness for other people to kind of just check, if there's aunt is really, with the 30 cats, there might be something off there, I also found, okay, this has nothing to do with your disorder now, but as you said, the police escorted you, for look a lot of the discussions here, defund the police and all these things. I think you're aware of it, what happens at the moment in the United States. And I think sometimes from my perspective, from Germany, that your police is also, or better, I heard of, and here is another example, is used for things the police is not meant to be. I mean, we should not look for mentally unstable people. The police should kind of, traffic and and rules and whatever, of course, yes. And if there is a dangerous person, they should be there. But I guess, the police is used for everything. It's like a firefighter. And anyway, this has nothing to do with our thing, but you just kind of cemented this view I have also, I get from the American media that police is done. They have to be very psychology trained and to kind of, because if you're a danger, you are a delusional, as you said, and you might kind of think, okay, these are the bad guys, and you attack them, and then they shoot you, because what can you do? I mean, I'm the police is, there should be. In Germany,
happens a lot.
Yeah, in Germany we have like you can find I don't have a, but anyway, we have a medical service that kind of you can call if there's something, you see something going on, and often the police will also come along, because mostly it's like, somebody got beaten up or something, and then you call the ambulance and stuff. Anyway, so this is okay. This has nothing to do with our talk. It's just made me realize.
It's a good point, because when I was 19, 20, 21, I lived in Australia. Mm-hmm. And Australia is, I guess you'd call them democratic socialist. They have that's what they would call them here. Mm-hmm. But my worldview was expanded, probably more so than the average person, because I did see that they had a very significant safety net, and if somebody needed psychiatric help, they got it, mm-hmm. whether they wanted it or not.
Yeah. And so, there's also faults in that. I can see that, my mother, my own mother was also submitted to a psychiatric ward and when it turned out she had a tumor in her head, kind of making her seeing things double and stuff, but nobody could find it because it was so small, and so she was kind of not very willfully omitted somewhere, because we thought she got crazy, because she could not walk anymore. She got problems and could not see right, and nobody found a medical issue. I mean, a biological issue, and so I know what you mean. I'm also in Germany. I think we are. Yeah, we take care more on the medical side as well, and the police is more for policing things, shooting a stray dog maybe or something, but not getting people to the hospital usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Anyway, there's faults in this thing, but yeah, I think also in the United States is kind of I think what we should maybe raise the awareness for the people of the United States, kind of be more observant and kind of ask yourself if this is still normal or so, or but it's such a thin line, you know. Just yesterday I had a conversation with a guy, and I was like, he was spouting a lot of here, what do you see, you know, these things, oh, I don't know the name now, conspiracy theories. And I was like, just I could not, you know, and I could not get into it. So, you know, he might have a mental disorder as well. But, you know, on the other side, there's a lot of people who think about a lot of, you know, stupid things and stuff. And if you take into the whole mess, the religions and what you think there, you know, if you take Scientology and stuff, and it's so ridiculous, it's not easy to really, as a not medical person, as a not doctor, a psychiatrist, to see what's going on, you know. And okay, and the last thing I'm going, and when I give it over to you again, I know one psychiatrist, and I can clearly see that she needs more psychiatry than other people. You know, some of the psychiatrists, they kind of go into this profession to help themselves, and that's fine, you know, to kind of know themselves, and they know they have an issue, so that's a good thing. They know they have an issue, but how can they help other people if you are, you know, you cannot save someone from drowning if you cannot swim. Basically, you know, that's my point here. You know, if you have a faulty psychiatrist, this might even be worse. So okay, sorry. Now completely off. I'm not completely off the topic, but not staying with you. And like I said, I hoped you could tell a story that you realized it somehow, but it wasn't the case. So. What can you, that we can maybe wrap up this topic, what would you recommend for people? Because you said before you have a lot of therapy, and what kind of seems to be a good method to help someone where you expected, you know, a disorder, and you know, you need to be very observant and a good friend, of course, you know, because otherwise when you just brush it off and, you know, whatever, he's grown up. So what's your recommendation? How would you approach it if you think there is something not good or a little bit wacky in your friend circle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. I might have said this before, but there's a lot of talk about society stigmas and destigmatization. But people have their own personal stigma. Like they don't want to admit to themselves that they need help or that they have a disorder. When I would talk about stuff with my dad, for example, he could relate to me. He's not mentally ill, but he doesn't feel this way now, but it's been years later. He was like, "Oh yeah, I can relate to you. You know, you need to relax a little bit more. You need to exercise. You need to maybe eat better. You need to, you know." And what I would want to say to somebody who, and that's the tricky part, because what you just said is so much part of the problem. And because it's not like you can go in and get a test, you can get a blood test, or, you know, if you break your arm, it's obvious it's broken, you get an x-ray. But I do know people who have been in a depression and they lose all hope, and the thing with psychiatric medication is that there's a lot of different medications, and everybody's different, and everybody reacts differently. What works for somebody and keeps them comfortable might really agitate somebody else and make them feel even worse. But I had somebody tell me once, and this was really significant to me. It really stuck with me. They said, "You feel this way now, but things change. And things change quicker than you think they might change." And at the time I was feeling very hopeless because this was my second hospitalization, because that's another story, but I was switched to a different medication. It stopped working. I ended up hospitalized for 2 months, just about. And when I was coming out of that, I felt awful for months and months and months. And I wasn't psychotic. I was just getting used to the treatment, to the medication. And they have to tricate, which is
tricate. So they find the doses or something.
Right. They go up a little bit, and then they have to wait, and sometimes months. And so, there were a few months where, I mean, honestly, I was like, if this is what it's going to be like, I don't want to be around. And my therapist would say, but things can change, and they can change rapidly. And we did finally. I'm very fortunate. I had a lot of people around me, and we eventually did find. And this has only been very recent, where I'm at now, to where I'm comfortable, to where I feel safe. I feel like that I'm in a safe environment, but so I would want to say that things change, and they can change rapidly, and there's always hope. And that you have to be patient. You have to be patient with yourself, be patient with the process. Maybe you need a different doctor. Maybe you need a different therapist. Maybe you need it's a moving target, and it's tough. And at the end of the day, most people, I would prefer to not be living as somebody who's mentally ill, but I am. And
you have to accept it in a way also, so it's, I guess, what you're telling me, that it's it's not nice. It's like, you're sitting in a wheelchair, you would rather walk, but I mean, you're still around, and you are impaired, I guess, a little bit by your medication, but at least it keeps you functional, and you be kind of the master in your own house. Basically, this is what I'm getting out of it. And with a change, it can change. You said a couple of times. I have a quote. I forgot where it's from, but I really like this one, and I will tell you. This too shall pass. That's of. And I take it as a positive and a negative thing at the same time, because for me it's like, if if I'm in a happy moment, I can kind of enjoy it much more. If I play with my daughter or something, I know this too shall pass. So I'm really in the moment, and I'm enjoying it. And because I know it will go over. It will be over one day or one minute. And also, if something bad happens and you're in a very black and bleak situation, you can say to yourself, "This too shall pass," because this will go over as well. I know, of course, it might be a little bit cynical for somebody who's really in a deep depression, and I had to learn this myself. I never was that depressed, so mood swings maybe and something, but I learned that if you are in a really deep depression, you kind of only see black, and your mind is revolving only about this and that. So it's really tough. It might be cynical for someone to say this too shall pass, you will get out of it, tomorrow it's another day, blah, blah, blah. These people have heard this. So, so I don't really, we're both not doctors or something. I don't know how to say to someone who's really deeply depressed. I would say to them, seek medical help, because if you're so depressed that you're not going out anymore, and all the joy is sucked out of your world, and then something is clearly wrong with you. So hopefully people will hear that and do something. The best thing is, of course, and you said this too, you had good people around you. That's I think that's the best safety net you can have. To have a loving family, loving friends who are really care for you. You're not just like when you're in your manic phase and things are fun and let's do this and that. You need this as well. That's nice too. But also you need real friends who are sit down with you. Hey, Greg, what's going on here? Well, there's something, the tough talk and stuff. You need. I guess we can agree on this. Sometimes the best friends are the ones who tell you the worst stuff about yourself, if you don't realize it yourself. And and also, this is also something I got from you. You need to accept your limitations, and you need to accept that there is an issue with you. And, that's not nice. I mean, I'm balding a little bit. This is a really bad comparison, but
I got you.
But the point is, I can be really unhappy about it and kind of, put a lot of thoughts into, oh man, and this what, But if you accept it, it's so much easier. I mean, this is. We're getting older, and things happen, and things fall apart, and you're not 20 anymore and stuff. So accepting your limitations, and also accepting you have an issue. This is maybe the main point we should bring home here, and then get help. If, like you said, if you get a broken arm, you get an X-ray and you get a cast and whatever. So, and if you are aware that I'm functioning a little bit different, and I push away all my friends, and something is wrong here. What's going on? Don't be afraid to reach out. In Germany, we have these help phone lines where you can call, and they also will direct you to, and this is all anonymous, you don't have to say your name and whatever. And so I guess something like this is also in the United States. Just try it, get a different perspective, I think the problem is to realize where this threshold is, so anyway, good friends, good family and stuff, and intact relationships are very important, So, Craig, it's not a big
subject.
It's not an easy and happy, but it's good. I mean, I kind of got into this, but I know that we would talk about it because you're so open with it, and I think it's very important that you're open with it, because there is no, it's just kind of self-realization that there is an issue, and it's good we should talk about it. But I would kind of wrap this up now and would ask you what I asked you much in the beginning. can you just explain again to the audience where this Wolken mit Zellen comes from, so that we kind of circle back to your musical thing, and maybe give us a nicer ending.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I started building the modular synths and really understanding how an analog oscillator works and all the other stages. And I started building some very well-known, it was a module called Clouds. Mm-hmm. And it was from a company that had open sourced it. And you didn't want to build one and pass it off as a real authentic one from this company. And so I just thought, I'll just change the name to Wolken.
And Wolken is German for clouds, just for the people who don't know this.
Right. And so it was that simple. I didn't have any ideas of a project or anything. And I thought I might have one around, but anyhow, I built a few of those, and then I moved on. And then when I started getting into my project, I thought, I don't necessarily want to have this project. My name is associated with it, of course, but I thought it would be neat to do something that was kind of a reflection of me. And German culture has been a big part of my upbringing, and I'm have a respect for it. Took German classes in high school. I can't speak the language, but I know.
Don't worry. It's not the easiest one. It's not Japanese or Chinese, but it's not so easy.
I memorized this poem by Goethe.
Goethe.
Röslein Rot.
Röslein Rot, Röslein auf der Heide. Yeah, it's a sad one, but yeah, a very well-known one.
Yeah,
Sah ein Knab ein Röslein stehen, Röslein auf der Heide, war so schön und war so jung und morgenschön. Because there's a subtext in it, and maybe we should not get into this, that there might be even a rape in this thing. So it's really you can read it very wrong. Wrong. We cannot ask Goethe what he really meant by it. But anyway, there's it has been analyzed to death basically, and anyway. Sorry. So go ahead with. So we got Wolken now, and now how do we get to the mit Zellen?
Yeah, I obviously wanted to extrapolate the word Wolken a little bit more, and just probably because there's already a band called Wolken, and here in Texas we've got just amazing skylines, and the clouds can come in as it'll be sunny and it's raining on you.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's a rainbow somewhere.
Yeah, and you've sometimes you can just see the different, almost like they're compartmentalized. Mm-hmm. And I literally had to look that up, and Zellen, and I just thought, that's perfect. Wolken mit Zellen.
So it's clouds with cells. Mm-hmm. It's just for the people out there, because I understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's a little bit of a story behind it, but.
No, it's fine, but it was really like it was such a specific kind of statement. So it was like in now that you explained it, it makes sense. But if you just read it, it makes no real sense. Or I mean, it makes a lot of sense because clouds have cells as well, kind of. So, but you know, it's kind of an odd choice. But at least, I mean, the good thing is you stick out with it. That's for sure. You know, and people might look up what you mean by this. So maybe we will find our talk, and maybe we will help a few people. Who knows? So I would like to wrap it up because I need to use the bathroom. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for your time, Craig. It was very good talking with you. I mean, we didn't talk much about music, but at least a little bit. But I thought, yeah, we have something very important to discuss, and who knows, we might have helped a few people or help in the future who gonna listen to that. Raise awareness, at least for the point. Even it's a really tricky subject, like we found out. Yeah, thank you very much. I wish you all the best in Texas. Where are you in Texas? If I you don't
Houston.
Houston. Oh, cool. I've been to Houston actually. So cool. Great city. I mean, big city. It's really really big. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of land.
Yeah. You know, for us Germans, you know, we are more. You know, Europe is not that big, and Texas is one of the biggest states, right? So, so it's kind of a lot of. Yeah, you have space, and we don't. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for your time and for your honesty and for your openness. I really appreciate it. Please hit me up again if you have new material. You know, I would like to hear it. You know, I'm not saying that I will play everything, you know, but if I like it, I will play it, of course, and help you to get some recognition. Yeah, and maybe, let's see, in a year, in more happier circumstances, we can reconnect again, and then we see where you are at the moment, and maybe you even consider some live shows. So let's see, you know, this would be interesting. Because I always
thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm always looking, you know, to electronic live shows are so different than normal band shows, you know, because when and so there's a lot of more things to consider, and also as a solo artist, you know, all the focus is on you. This is sometimes a little bit tougher. Just the other day I was talking with a female artist and singer, and it was like, and she told me she almost passed out once in a on stage because, you know, she was getting up too fast, and, you know, and people were kind of, oh, you made some silly movements and stuff, but we thought it was part of the show and stuff. Anyway, this is, you know, in a band you can kind of, you can disappear a little bit if you want to, you know, and then, anyway. Yeah, thank you very much. I wish you a good evening you have now, right? Yeah.
Yep, time for bed.
Your clock is broken on the wall, or it's not. You need a new battery or something.
No, I keep it there because I guess as a reminder of my own mind, might be broken, but at least a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's I know. I always think this is a funny, but it's true, you know. So yeah, okay. So I wish you all the best, and yeah, hopefully you can continue to make great music, and yeah. So good night. Have a sweet dreams. To say it with Eurythmics.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.